Hi everybody! For this week's assignments, we're working with diatonic intervals. So diatonic means that these intervals, or whatever you're describing, is inside a certain key signature. Chromatic intervals and chromatic other things just means that those are things outside of the key signature. For this week, we're working on diatonic intervals. Intervals is the distance between two notes. So, diatonic intervals are the distance between notes within a key signature. So let's start with the key of B flat major. First thing we need to do is write out the B flat major scale. There we go. Remember, we use that formula whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. The distance from this note to this note is P1, or a perfect unison. The distance from this note to this note is a major second. Remember, when you're writing major, the M has to be capitalized. The distance from this note to this note is a major third. This note to this note is a perfect fourth. This note to this note is a perfect fifth. This note to this note, a major sixth. This note to this note is a major seventh. And this note to this note is a perfect octave. These intervals exist in every single key signature, no matter what the scale is. The distance from the key note, or the first note you're counting from, to whatever note within the scale will always have this formula of perfect unison, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and perfect octave. So band folks, this week you're working on identifying the interval from one to the next. Your homework will look like this. You will be asked to identify what is this interval. So step 1, figure out what the notes are. This bottom note is G, and the top note is D. From here, the next step is to identify the key note. The key note is always the lower note. Our key note here is G. Step 3, build the key note's major scale. So I'm going to build the G major scale. G, and a whole step is A, another whole step, B, a half step, C, and then a whole step, D. I'm not going to go all the way through the scale because I'm trying to figure out the distance from G to D. And since I already got to D natural here, we're good to go. So now you just got to remember how those intervals work. From what we just worked on, the interval from the first note to the first note is perfect unison. Second interval is major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth. So your answer to this interval is a perfect fifth. We'll do one more. So here we go. We have another example. This one is in the bass clef, already in the key of E flat major. Step 1 is still the same. Identify the two notes. This bottom note is A, but because of the key signature, this tells us that this is actually A flat. The top note is F. Between those two, which one's the key note? You're right, it's the lower one, all the time. This is A flat. Which means that we are building the A flat major scale. This key signature no longer matters. We want to build the key notes major scale, A flat. Whole step above A flat, whole step above B flat, half step above C, whole step above D flat, whole step above E flat. And because we've already gotten to the note we're trying to identify, we don't need to go any further. Again, we just need to remember the intervals that occur within the scale, or diatonically. Major 6 is your answer. So looking at the scale itself, if I was to continue this, why are some of these intervals perfect and major? And how do we tell the difference? This actually goes back to music history. Back when the church was in charge of a lot of things, including music. The church designated that intervals of the unison, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and octave sounded the holiest, and they were therefore the closest to God, or perfect. The other intervals were designated as major. Not quite perfect, but still kind of nice. Choir, your homework is slightly different. You are still working with diatonic intervals, but they will not be asking you to identify them. You will be building them. Your homework will look like this. They will give you a note, and they will ask for an interval above that note. Step 1 is still the same. Identify the note. G. Step 2 is still the same. Your step 2 is even easier. You only have one note. That's your key note. Step 3 is still the same. Build the key notes major scale. In this case, I'm building G major. From here, the question is asking you for a perfect fifth. If you write out your intervals underneath, you'll find your perfect fifth. Right here. The answer for this is D natural, a perfect fifth above the note that they gave you. Let's do one more example. we go. So we're asking for a major third above this note. Step 1 is still the same. Identify the note. Step 2, identify the key note. Did you find it yet? There's only one note. Boom! Next step, build the key note's major scale. So I'm going to build D major. Next step, find a major third. Because these are diatonic intervals, I literally just got to go down the scale with all of our diatonic intervals we just wrote down. Boom. Our answer is F sharp. Good luck on your homework this week.